Liara sat on the edge of the cliff, her small legs dangling over the rocky edge. Staring out at the red-brown horizon of Vatras 9, the wind whipped through her silver hair, carrying the faint scent of metal and dust. The planet had been quiet for as long as she could remember, but she had always felt the emptiness deep in her chest. Her parents were gone. She told herself they had died in the war, defending their homeworld from humans. She had no memory of them, only the stories the colony elders had shared before the war ended. Her home had once been a vibrant colony. The streets were full of laughter, markets, and glowing lights that danced across the skyline. Now, it was nothing more than ruins. Buildings were half collapsed, walls marked by scorch marks, and the few remaining domes flickered with failing power. Liara had learned to navigate these ruins carefully. Every day was a test of survival, finding food, avoiding the dangerous drones left behind from the battles, and keeping her small, fragile body safe from the harsh elements of Vatir Is-9. Liara always carried a small, worn holopad. It contained images of her parents, or at least the few she could find. She would stare at them for hours, tracing their faces with trembling fingers. They had been brave and beautiful, strong and gentle. "I will find you," she whispered to the empty air, "even if I have to cross the stars." Her voice was soft, but determination shone in her eyes. She lived in a small shelter carved into the side of a mountain, using scraps of metal and old panels to cover the entrance. Inside, it was dim, but safe. She had made it cozy in her own way, little cushions made from fabric scraps, jars to store food and water, and a few old books she had found in the ruins. At night, she would sit under the soft glow of a solar lamp and imagine what her parents' voices sounded like, what it would feel like to hold them again. One afternoon, while scavenging in the ruins of an old city center, she noticed something unusual. A plume of smoke rose from the valley below. Curiosity and caution battled within her. She had been taught to avoid humans, and the smoke smelled metallic, like the engines of their ships. But part of her longed for connection, for answers. She crept closer, hiding behind the remnants of a collapsed building. From her vantage point, she saw a figure lying on the ground beside a small, damaged ship. The figure was human. His armor was scratched and torn, and he appeared to be struggling to move. Liara's heart pounded. She had never seen a human so close, not since the stories of war. Her mind screamed to run, but her feet stayed rooted. Something about him seemed different, vulnerable, not dangerous. After a few moments, he groaned and shifted slightly, trying to rise. Liara's fear was replaced by curiosity. She wanted to see if he was alive, if he could speak. Slowly, she stepped closer. "Are you alive?" she asked, her voice trembling. The human's head lifted slightly, his blue eyes meeting hers. I think so," he said, his voice rough but calm. "Can you help me?" Liara froze. The story she had been told all her life screamed at her to run, to hide, to trust nothing human. But the fear in his eyes mirrored her own. Something inside her softened. She stepped forward, cautiously. I can try." Over the next hour, Liara helped him back to her shelter. She cleaned his wounds using herbs and bandages she had collected from the ruins. The human, who introduced himself as Captain Elias Kane, winced but remained quiet. He didn't ask many questions, only focusing on the gentle movements of her hands. Liara noticed that despite the scars on his armor and the bruises on his skin, there was a calmness in him that made her heart slow. He was not the monster she had imagined from the stories of war. That night, they sat in her small shelter. Liara offered him some dried fruits and water, and he ate slowly, his eyes never leaving her face. Why are you here?" she finally asked. Elias sighed. "I was on a mission. Something went wrong. I didn't plan to end up here." His voice was honest, open. "I'm not here to fight you or your people." Liara tilted her head, unsure if she should believe him. "You're human. My parents fought humans. They died because of humans. Why should I trust you?" Elias nodded, understanding her fear. "I won't ask you to trust me yet," he said. "Trust is earned, not given. I just want to survive, like you, and maybe help you if I can. Over the next few days, Liara and Elias learned to coexist. She taught him how to navigate the ruins without alerting drones. He shared stories of his people, humans who risked everything to protect others. Humans who had fought against the ones who caused destruction. Liara listened with wonder, trying to reconcile the images she had carried of humans as enemies with the stories of courage and kindness Elias told. Slowly, the walls around Liara's heart began to crack. She realized that not all humans were like the ones in the war stories. Some were capable of bravery, empathy, and selflessness just like her parents had been. She watched Elias fix old machinery, improvise tools, and navigate the dangerous terrain. Every action spoke of intelligence, adaptability, and a will to survive. Traits she had thought only her people possessed. One evening, as the twin moons rose over Vatros 9, Elias turned to her. Liara, he said carefully, there's something I need to tell you. Something about your parents. Liara's stomach tightened. She had hoped, prayed, and dreamed of this moment, yet now fear and hope warred inside her. What about them? She asked, her voice barely a whisper. Elias hesitated. It's complicated, but I promise you, it's the truth. And it's not what you think. Liara's heart pounded. Could it be possible that everything she had believed about her parents' deaths was wrong? Could humans, the very beings she had been taught to fear, hold the answers to the greatest mystery of her life? That night, she could hardly sleep. She stared at the ceiling of her shelter, imagining the world beyond Vatros 9, imagining the faces of her parents. For the first time, hope flickered inside her chest. Perhaps the universe was bigger than the stories she had been told. Perhaps humans were not only enemies, but something more, something that could help her discover the truth about her parents. And the life she thought she had lost forever died as dawn broke over the barren landscape. Liara made a decision. She would listen to Elias. She would see the truth for herself. Whatever awaited them, she knew one thing. She would no longer be alone. And somewhere deep in her heart, a spark of courage ignited. It was the same spark her parents must have carried. The same spark that had survived the war and the desolation of Vatros 9. And for the first time in her life, Liara believed that maybe, just maybe, the universe still had surprises worth fighting for. The morning sun cast a soft glow over Vatros 9, bathing the barren landscape in warm gold. Liara moved quietly through the rocky terrain, carrying a small pack of scavenged supplies. Behind her, Captain Elias Kane followed carefully, limping slightly from his injuries, but moving with surprising speed and agility. The uneasy silence between them was filled only by the whispering wind and the distant hum of broken drones that patrolled abandoned sectors. Liara's mind raced with questions. She wanted answers about her parents, but she also feared them. Could a human, one of the species her parents had supposedly fought against, really be trustworthy? And yet, Elias had shown her kindness, patience, and respect, qualities she had never associated with humans in her childhood stories. Liara, Elias said softly, breaking the silence. I need to tell you something about your parents. But first, we need to make sure you're safe. Liara frowned, unsure if she wanted to hear what he had to say. Safe? She asked. I've been safe here for years. I've survived on my own. Elias shook his head. This place is dangerous. Drones, scavengers, and the leftover traps from the war. Staying here alone will only put you at more risk. I want to help you, if you'll let me. Liara studied him carefully. There was no false pride or arrogance in his tone. No attempt to command or control her. Just honesty. She hesitated, then nodded slowly. Okay, we stay together, but only until I decide I can trust you. Fair enough. Elias replied with a faint smile. Trust is earned. For the next few days, they worked together, exploring abandoned cities and old military outposts. Liara taught Elias how to avoid hidden traps in the patrols of old war drones, showing him the safest paths and warning him of dangerous ruins that could collapse at any moment. In return, Elias shared stories of human ingenuity and bravery. One afternoon, they entered a ruined city that had once been a hub of interstellar trade. Broken vehicles littered the streets, and the skeletal remains of buildings jutted into the sky. Liara led the way, moving with the agility of someone who had survived in this desolate world her whole life. Elias followed, carefully scanning every corner, his eyes sharp and observant. Elias said as he examined a broken control panel, humans are often judged by our mistakes in war. But there are many who risk everything to help others, even when it's dangerous. Liara raised an eyebrow. Like your parents? Elias shook his head. Not mine. But there are humans who would do the same as your parents risk their lives to save others. Protect what's right, even when the odds are against them, Liara frowned. The idea was strange. All her life, she had been told humans were ruthless and cruel. And yet, here was one human, injured and weary, helping her without asking for anything in return. Could there be more like him? That evening, they camped near a dried riverbed, the sky above them painted in shades of pink and purple. Elias worked on repairing a small communicator device he had scavenged, while Liara watched the glowing stars emerge one by one. She said quietly, I used to believe that humans were the reason my parents died, that you were all enemies. Elias looked up from his work. I know. War makes monsters out of everyone, and stories make enemies out of people who might not deserve it. Liara thought about that. For years, she had believed the worst about humans. But Elias had shown her patience, kindness, and courage. Maybe not all humans were the same. Maybe the universe was bigger than her childhood stories. The next day, as they navigated through a canyon filled with jagged rocks, Elias slowed down. He motioned for Liara to stop. There, he whispered, pointing to a cluster of drones circling above. Liara's heart raced. We can't fight them, they'll destroy us. Elias nodded. We won't fight. We'll move quietly and stay out of sight. Together, they crawled under the shadows of fallen walls, using Elias' knowledge of human tactics and Liara's familiarity with the terrain. The drones passed by without noticing them. When they reached the other side, Liara exhaled sharply, her chest tight with relief. You were amazing, she said, her voice filled with admiration. Elias shrugged. Teamwork. You taught me how to survive here. I taught you a few tricks. That's all it is. Liara smiled faintly. She had never considered working with another being before. She had always relied on herself. But with Elias, she felt stronger, more capable. It was a new feeling, and she didn't entirely understand it that night. They shared a simple meal of preserved rations and water. The stars reflected in Liara's eyes as she finally asked the question that had been burning inside her for days. Elias, you said you know something about my parents. What is it? Elias hesitated, choosing his words carefully. Liara, your parents didn't die the way everyone believes. They were taken by humans, captured during the final battles. Liara's stomach twisted. Taken? But why? How? They were heroes. They were, Elias said gently, and they still are. Humans didn't kill them, Liara. They were brought to a secure facility. I can't tell you everything yet, it's complicated, but they're alive. They've been working on something important. Something that could change everything for your people and humans alike. Liara's mind spun. All her life, she had believed her parents were gone. All her grief, her loneliness, her struggle to survive it had been based on a lie. And now, for the first time, hope bloomed in her chest. But along with hope came fear. Could she trust this human? Could she risk believing him? Elias reached out, placing a hand on her shoulder. I know it's hard to believe. I wouldn't ask you to trust me if I didn't mean it. I'll help you find them if you're ready to take the first step. Liara nodded slowly. The weight of her fear pressed down on her, but she also felt a spark of courage. For years, she had survived alone. Now, she had a chance to see her parents again and maybe, just maybe, understand the universe in a way she never had before. The next morning, they set out toward the coordinates Elias had obtained. The journey was perilous. Old war machines still patrolled parts of the planet, and rogue scavenger bands hunted for anything they could claim. But together, Liara and Elias moved with precision, combining her knowledge of the terrain with his tactical experience. Along the way, Elias shared more about humanity, about courage, compassion, and the ability to rise above mistakes. Liara listened intently, slowly reshaping her beliefs. Humans were not perfect. They had caused destruction, yes, but they also had the capacity for heroism, for sacrifice, and for friendship. Days passed, and the bond between them grew. Liara began to rely on Elias in ways she had never relied on anyone before. She began to see him not as a human enemy, but as a companion, a protector, and a guide. And in turn, Elias learned from her resilience, her ingenuity, and her courage. One evening, as they camped near a cliff overlooking the glowing horizon, Liara looked at Elias. I think I can trust you, she said quietly. Elias smiled, a warmth in his eyes that reassured her. Thank you, Liara. That means a lot. Trust is hard, especially after war, but you're brave enough to give it. Liara's heart swelled with determination. She would see this journey through. She would find her parents, and she would learn the truth for herself. Whatever obstacles lay ahead, she was ready. And for the first time, she didn't feel completely alone. The stars above seemed brighter that night, as if reflecting the hope growing within Liara's heart. For the first time, she believed that humans and aliens could work together. That courage and compassion could bridge the divides created by war. And most importantly, she believed that her parents were still out there, waiting for her, alive and ready to be reunited with their daughter. The journey was just beginning, but Liara felt stronger than ever. With Elias by her side, she would face the dangers of Vatras 9, uncover the truth about her parents, and perhaps find a new path for the future, one where humans and aliens could coexist in understanding and hope. The next morning, Liara and Elias left their small camp, moving toward the coordinates Elias had memorized. The terrain grew rougher as they traveled. Sharp rocks tore at their boots, and gusts of wind whipped dust and debris into their faces. Yet, Liara pressed on with determination, her mind filled with images of her parents and the hope of finally discovering the truth. Elias walked beside her, careful to match her pace. We're getting closer, he said quietly. I don't know exactly what we'll find, but I promise you they're alive. Liara's stomach churned with a mix of fear and excitement. Could it really be true? All her life, she had grieved them, believed they were gone forever, and now, the possibility that they were alive filled her with hope she didn't know she could feel. But hope also brought fear. What if the humans who held her parents had treated them badly? What if they were changed, or worse, unable to come home as they crossed a narrow canyon? Liara noticed strange tracks on the dusty ground, small, precise, and mechanical. Drones, Elias. There are drones ahead, she whispered, crouching behind a jagged rock. Elias knelt beside her, scanning the area. Not just any drones, he said, frowning. These are patrol drones from the old war, still active and programmed to attack intruders. We'll need to be careful. Liara's heart pounded. She had faced drones before, scavenging and hiding from them, but these were different, smarter, faster, more dangerous. What do we do? She asked. Elias studied the formation. We move slowly, stay low, and follow the shadow lines. I'll guide us through. Trust me. Together, they inched forward, crawling under low walls, slipping behind rocks, and avoiding the watchful eyes of the drones. Liara's hands shook with tension, but she focused on Elias' calm instructions. Slowly, carefully, they passed the patrols, reaching the edge of the canyon without being detected. When they reached the other side, the landscape opened into a valley, and in the distance, they saw a large human facility hidden among jagged cliffs. Towering walls and domes reflected the sunlight, and hovering drones circled above, guarding every entrance. Liara's breath caught in her throat. That's it, Elias whispered. Your parents are inside, but getting in won't be easy. Liara's eyes filled with determination. I don't care how hard it is. I need to see them. I need to know the truth. Elias nodded. I understand, and we'll do it together. They approached the facility cautiously, using the shadows and natural terrain to avoid detection. Elias explained the layout based on intelligence he had gathered, hidden entrances, weak points in security, and areas where drones were less concentrated. Liara listened intently, memorizing every detail. For the first time in her life, she felt part of a team, part of something bigger than survival, part of a mission that could change everything. That night, the camp near the outer perimeter of the facility, Liara sat silently, staring at the glowing lights of the domes in the distance. "Do you think they're okay?" she asked softly. Elias looked at her, his expression serious but gentle. "I believe they are. They've always been strong, smart, and resourceful. Whatever they're doing inside, they've managed to survive. But it won't be easy getting them out." Liara nodded, her mind swirling with images of her parents, her mother, with her bright eyes and gentle smile, and her father, with his tall frame and protective presence. Memories she had never truly known filled her imagination. She clenched her fists, feeling a surge of courage. "I'll do whatever it takes," she said. The next day, they began their approach. Elias led the way, using a small camouflage device to temporarily disable the outer drone sensors. They moved silently, slipping past patrols and entering a maintenance tunnel that led deep into the facility. The tunnel was dark, and the hum of machinery echoed through the walls. Liara's pulse quickened, but she followed Elias without hesitation, trusting his experience and guidance. Finally, they reached a large chamber filled with glowing panels, strange equipment, and alien machinery. And there, in the center, were two figures, her parents. Liara froze, tears welling in her eyes. They were alive. They were real. "Liara," her mother cried, rushing forward. Her voice was filled with disbelief and joy. Her father followed, embracing her tightly, holding her as if he would never let go again. Liara sobbed, burying her face in their shoulders. I thought you were gone," she whispered. "We never stopped thinking about you," her father said, holding her at arm's length, examining her face with careful eyes. "We were taken during the war, but we were kept safe. We never gave up hope that one day we'd see you again." Elias stepped back, giving them space, but his eyes reflected relief and pride. Liara turned to him, gratitude shining in her gaze. You told me the truth," she said softly. "You brought me to them." Elias nodded. "I promised. And I always keep my promises." Her parents explained everything. During the final battles, they had been captured by human forces, not killed. They were taken to a secure facility and asked to help repair the damage caused by the war, using their knowledge to save other colonies and planets. They had worked tirelessly, knowing their daughter was somewhere, waiting for them, hoping they would survive. Liara listened, her heart overflowing with emotions, relief, joy, and wonder. The human she had been taught to fear had kept her parents alive. Elias, one human, had risked everything to reunite their family. Her mother hugged her tightly again. "We always believed in humanity's potential for good, Liara, even during the war. We hoped there were humans who could be allies, not enemies." Liara's father nodded. "And Captain Kane has proven it. Trust can bridge divides, even the deepest ones." Tears streamed down Liara's face as she realized the truth. Humans were not just enemies. They were capable of courage, honor, and compassion. And Elias had shown her that one person's bravery could change everything. But there was little time to celebrate. The facility was heavily guarded, and any mistake could alert the other humans or automated defenses. Elias turned to them. "We need to leave now." Quietly and carefully, Liara, her parents, and Elias moved together, navigating the labyrinth of corridors and tunnels. Every step was tense, every shadow a potential threat. The knowledge that the humans guarding the facility could attack at any moment weighed heavily on them. Finally, they reached the outer tunnel. Elias activated his device again, temporarily disabling the drone sensors. One by one, they slipped into the open air, the cool wind of Vatrus 9 washing over them. Liara's heart raced with exhilaration and relief. They were free, at least for now. As they moved toward a safer area, Liara looked at Elias. I can't believe you risked so much to help me," she said, her voice trembling. Elias shook his head, a small smile on his face. "I did what anyone brave would do. And besides, you reminded me why humans fight, not for power, not for conquest, but for family, hope, and the chance to make a difference." Liara felt a surge of admiration for him. not just as a human, but as someone who had shown courage, empathy, and selflessness, the very qualities she had always admired in her parents. That night, as they camped under the stars, Liara lay next to her parents, feeling the warmth of their presence. She realized that the universe was far bigger and more complex than the stories she had been told. Humans were not just enemies, they could be allies, friends, and heroes. For the first time, Liara believed that anything was possible. She had survived alone, faced countless dangers, and now, with her parents and Elias by her side, she felt stronger than ever. The journey was far from over. There were still dangers ahead and challenges they had yet to face. But Liara knew one truth above all: courage, trust, and compassion could overcome even the darkest pasts. And with humans and aliens standing together, the future, once uncertain, now held hope. The valley stretched out before them like a silent battlefield. The jagged cliffs loomed overhead, and the faint hum of distant machinery echoed through the air. Liara walked beside her parents, feeling the warmth of their hands in hers. Elias moved cautiously ahead, scanning the terrain for patrol drones and traps. Every step they took was measured, every sound could mean danger. Yet the group moved forward with a renewed sense of purpose. "Are we far?" Liara asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Elias glanced back. "A few more kilometers. Then we'll reach a safer zone where we can rest and plan the next move. But we have to stay quiet. The facility's drones may still be searching for us." Liara's parents exchanged glances. Her mother squeezed her hand reassuringly. "We're with you, Liara. You've grown strong and clever. You survived alone for years. Now, together, we can get through this." Liara's heart swelled with emotion. For so long, she had imagined this moment, being with her parents again. And now, after all the danger, they were here, alive. She felt a courage she had never known before. She would protect them. She would survive with them. As they approached a narrow canyon, Elias signaled for them to stop. "Drones ahead," he whispered, pointing to faint shapes gliding above the cliffs. Liara's heart raced. She had seen drones before, but these were highly advanced, fast, with sensors that could detect movement from far away. "Can we pass without being noticed?" her father asked. Elias studied the drone's flight pattern. "If we move slowly, use the shadows, and stay low, yes, it will be dangerous, but possible." Liara took a deep breath and led the group forward, her parents following closely behind. They moved silently, hiding behind rocks and fallen structures, every step calculated. Liara's mind was sharp, remembering all the tricks she had learned from surviving alone. Elias directed them with precision, combining his knowledge of human tactics with her instincts for survival. Hours passed, and the sun began to dip behind the cliffs. Finally, they reached the outskirts of a dense forest of jagged metallic trees, remnants of Viewership's industrial age. "Here," Elias said. "This is where we can rest for the night. The drones rarely patrol this area, and it gives us cover." Liara and her parents set up a small camp, using scraps of metal and debris to create a hidden shelter. The air was filled with the scent of metal and dust, but it was safer than the open terrain. They shared a quiet meal of preserved rations, and for a moment, the tension eased. Her parents spoke in hushed voices about their experiences in the facility. "It wasn't easy," her mother said. "We were forced to work on projects that could help rebuild war-torn planets. It was tiring, but we survived, always hoping you were safe." Her father nodded. "Your mother is right, and now we have the chance to leave, thanks to Elias. He risked his life to bring us back to you." Liara looked at Elias, her gratitude deep. I can't thank you enough," she said softly. Elias shook his head. "No thanks needed. What matters is that we all get out safely. That's enough for me." The next morning, the group prepared to move again. The facility loomed ahead, a massive structure of steel and glass, surrounded by drones and automated defenses. "We'll need a plan," Elias said, his tone serious. "We can't just run through the main gates. Too many drones, too much risk." Liara nodded. "We can use the tunnels. I've seen old schematics of this facility in the ruins. There's a maintenance entrance that leads inside. It's hidden and lightly guarded. Elias's eyes lit up. Good thinking. We'll use that. Once inside, we stick to the shadows, avoid patrols, and get your parents to safety. Agreed? Agreed, Liara said, her voice firm. They moved carefully through the forest, keeping low and using the natural shadows to hide from the drones. Liara's instincts were sharp, guiding them around pitfalls and sensors. Her parents followed closely, trusting her and Elias completely. Every step brought them closer to freedom, yet danger lurked at every corner. Finally, they reached the maintenance entrance. It was hidden behind a cluster of metallic trees and debris, exactly as Liara remembered from the schematics. Elias examined the lock mechanism, his hands skilled and precise. This should hold long enough for us to get inside, he said, and with a soft click, the door opened. The interior was dark, illuminated by dim lights and the faint glow of holographic panels. The hum of machinery filled the air. Liara's heart raced as they moved silently through the corridors, keeping close to the walls and avoiding surveillance cameras. Her parents stayed close, their eyes alert but trusting in her guidance. They reached a large chamber filled with strange machinery and glowing panels. Liara's parents paused, their faces reflecting both relief and caution. "We need to move quickly," Elias whispered. "Patrols are coming." As they navigated the chamber, Liara noticed small security drones moving along predetermined paths. She signaled to Elias, and together they timed their movements perfectly, slipping past the drones without detection. Her parents followed, careful and silent. At last, they reached a storage corridor leading to the outer exit. The open sky of Vatras 9 glimmered above, a promise of freedom and safety. Liara's heart soared. They were almost there, but danger struck. A patrol drone turned unexpectedly, its sensors detecting movement. It emitted a piercing alarm, alerting nearby drones. "Run!" Elias shouted, grabbing Liara's hand and pulling her forward. They sprinted through the corridor, dodging drones and avoiding automated traps. Liara's parents kept close, relying on her guidance and Elias' protection. Sparks flew from damaged machinery, and the sound of alarms echoed around them. Every second felt like a lifetime. Finally, they reached the exit. The sunlight hit their faces, and for a moment, they felt the warmth of hope. But drones hovered above, circling menacingly. "We need cover," Elias shouted. He led them to a rocky outcrop nearby, providing temporary safety from the patrols. Liara's parents looked at her with pride. "You've grown so much," her mother said. "You led us through danger, and we are alive because of you." Her father nodded. "And Elias, your bravery and skill saved us. Together, we made it." Liara felt a surge of emotion, relief, gratitude, and a newfound confidence. She had survived alone for years, but now she realized the power of teamwork, trust, and courage. Humans, once thought to be enemies, had proven themselves capable of heroism and compassion. As night fell, they found a safer location to camp. The stars above Vatras 9 twinkled like tiny beacons of hope. Liara sat beside her parents, holding their hands, feeling the warmth of family and the promise of a brighter future. Elias looked at them quietly. "We're not out of danger yet," he said. "But together, we can face whatever comes next. Trust, courage, and teamwork will guide us." Liara nodded. For the first time in her life, she felt truly safe. Her parents were alive. Humans could be allies. And with courage, determination, and trust, they could overcome any challenge. The journey was far from over. But Liara knew one thing for certain: the bond between humans and aliens, between family and friends, could face any obstacle. And with that bond, the future of Vatras 9 and the galaxy held hope. The dawn broke slowly over the jagged cliffs of Vatras 9, painting the barren landscape in shades of gold and pink. Liara stood on a rocky outcrop, her parents beside her, and Elias a few steps ahead. The air smelled of dust and metal, but there was also a strange sweetness hope. After everything they had endured, they had survived the facility, outwitted the patrol drones, and reunited as a family. Yet, the journey was not over. They needed to reach a safe zone far from the remnants of the war, where they could plan their next steps. "Are we ready?" Elias asked, scanning the horizon. Liara nodded firmly. Yes, we move together, and we stay alert. Nothing else matters right now except getting to safety. Her parents, still recovering from their long captivity, trusted her instinctively. Her mother's hand brushed against Liara's arm. You've grown so strong, my daughter. You've led us through danger, and we are alive because of you. Her father nodded, pride in his eyes. And Elias has been our guide and protector. Together, we are stronger than any obstacle. Liara felt a surge of courage. For years, she had survived alone, scavenging and hiding, always fearing the universe. Now, with her parents alive and Elias by her side, she understood something profound. Courage and trust could create bonds stronger than fear. They set off, moving carefully across the rocky terrain. The path ahead was treacherous, with narrow ledges, unstable cliffs, and scattered remnants of war machinery. Every step required focus, every movement calculated. Liara led the way, her sharp instincts honed from years of survival guiding them through the hazards. Elias covered the rear, his trained eyes scanning for threats. Her parents stayed close, moving with careful determination. Hours passed, and the group encountered their first obstacle, a collapsed bridge spanning a deep ravine. Below, the jagged rocks gleamed in the sunlight, a fall certain to be fatal. Liara examined the remnants carefully. We can make it, she said, her voice steady. We'll use the debris and cables to create a path. Elias, can you help me? Elias smiled faintly. Of course. We'll do it together. Working as a team, they dragged broken beams and twisted cables into place, forming a makeshift bridge sturdy enough to support their weight. Liara led the way, carefully testing each step. Her parents followed, trusting her guidance, and Elias brought up the rear, ensuring stability. Step by step, they crossed the ravine, hearts pounding with tension and relief. Once on the other side, Liara paused, looking back at the facility they had escaped. It was now a distant memory, a dark chapter in their lives. She felt a mixture of fear, relief, and triumph. They had faced danger, survived the unknown, and reunited a family torn apart by war. As they moved toward a safer region, Liara's parents began to share their thoughts about the future. We cannot stay hidden forever, her mother said. There are others who need help, planets and colonies rebuilding after the war. We can contribute, share knowledge, and protect those who cannot protect themselves. Her father nodded. We can't undo the past, but we can shape the future. And we can start by teaching our people that humans are not all enemies. There's courage and goodness among them. Liara smiled, feeling a warmth in her chest. And I've learned that too, she said softly. Humans can be brave, kind, and selfless, Elias. You showed me that. Elias shook his head, smiling. I only did what anyone would do for someone they cared about. You've proven that courage comes in many forms. Liara, you survived alone, led your family, and now we face the future together. Their journey continued through rocky plains and barren hills, each step bringing them closer to the safe zone. Along the way, they encountered signs of the war's aftermath, ruined settlements, abandoned machines, and traces of other survivors. Liara's heart ached at the destruction, but she also felt hope. People were rebuilding, learning, and surviving, just as they had. One evening, as the twin moons rose over the horizon, Elias stopped and looked at the group. We're close, he said. The safe zone is just beyond that ridge. Once we reach it, we can rest, plan, and start helping others. Liara's parents exchanged glances, a mixture of exhaustion and determination in their eyes. We're ready, her mother said. Her father nodded. Lead the way, Liara. With renewed energy, Liara led them over the ridge. Below lay a hidden valley, shielded from the winds and drones, filled with soft soil, scattered trees, and small streams of clean water. It was a haven, a place to rest, recover, and begin a new dot as they settled into the valley. Liara looked at her parents and Elias. They had faced impossible odds, survived danger, and reunited as a family. And yet, the story did not end here. There was work to do, people to help, and bridges to build between species. Her mother spoke first. We have been given a second chance, Liara. We cannot waste it. Together, we will teach others that trust, courage, and compassion are more powerful than fear and hatred. Liara's father nodded. We will show that humans and aliens can coexist. That together we can rebuild what was lost and create a better future. Liara felt a surge of determination. For years, she had been alone, fighting to survive. Now, she had family, allies, and hope. She understood that bravery was not just about fighting, it was about trusting others, helping those in need, and believing in a better future. Elias looked at her, pride and warmth in his eyes. You've grown into someone extraordinary, Liara. Your courage, intelligence, and heart are inspiring. Together, we can make a difference not just for your people, but for the galaxy. Liara smiled. Then let's start. Let's rebuild, help others, and show that humans and aliens can work together. We have a chance to create something better. The days that followed were filled with hard work, planning, and hope. Liara and her parents began helping rebuild nearby settlements, using their knowledge and skills to repair infrastructure, provide clean water, and teach survival techniques. Elias worked alongside them, demonstrating human ingenuity and resourcefulness, earning the respect of the alien communities. Word spread quickly, humans and aliens working together, overcoming fear and prejudice, rebuilding what was lost. Liara became a symbol of hope, a bridge between species, a reminder that courage, trust, and compassion could create change. One evening, as the sun set over the valley, Liara sat with her parents and Elias, watching the sky turn shades of orange and pink. I never imagined this, she said softly, that humans could be allies, that we could survive, that we could rebuild. Her mother smiled. The universe is full of surprises, Liara, and the greatest surprise is the strength we find in each other. Her father nodded. Remember, courage is not just in fighting battles. It is in standing together, trusting others, and believing in the possibility of a better future. Liara looked at Elias, gratitude and admiration in her eyes. You proved that humans can be brave, kind, and selfless. You showed me that trust can change everything. Elias shook his head. We all proved that your courage, your parents' resilience, and my determination. Together, we made a difference. And together, we will continue to do so. As night fell, the valley glowed under the light of the twin moons. Liara felt a deep sense of peace, knowing that her family was safe, that humans and aliens could work together, and that the future held hope. She knew that challenges would come, that dangers would arise. But she also knew one thing for certain: with courage, trust, and compassion, nothing was impossible. And so, Liara, her parents, and Elias began a new chapter, one filled with hope, unity, and the belief that humanity's courage could inspire change across the galaxy. The war was over, but the story of bravery, trust, and rebuilding had just begun. The stars above shone brighter that night, reflecting the hope in their hearts. Liara looked at the horizon, confident that the bonds they had forged, the courage they had shown, and the trust they had built would guide them forward. For the first time in her life, Liara believed that the universe was not just a place of danger and loss, but a place of possibility where humans and aliens could stand together, creating a future full of hope, peace, and strength.